right, we have some breaking developments coming in. US President Donald Trump has renewed his threats to Iran a day after announcing a 2-week ceasefire. In a post on Truth Social Network, Trump said all US ships, aircraft and military personnel with additional ammunition, weapons will remain in place in and around Iran until such time as the real agreement reached is fully complied with. He further said that for any reason, if it is not complied with, then, and I quote, shooting starts bigger and better and stronger than anyone has ever seen before, end quote. He reiterated that his demands, no nuclear weapons and Strait of Hormuz remains open and safe. That's the word coming in from Trump. Now, joining us from the newsroom is my colleague Shivan. Shivan, take us through the latest details that you're picking up.
Also pertinent to note, while Donald Trump has again resorted to the threatening rhetoric, and that's something Iran had initially mentioned that they're not going to resort to any kind of deal under pressure and threats, but that language is very much back. It was just little over 48 hours ago that there was a threat to end the Iranian civilization. Then we heard of the ceasefire yesterday. The ceasefire was perhaps the most fragile ceasefire we've ever seen in history, because soon after that ceasefire was announced, there were already breaches being reported across the Gulf, and even territories being attacked in Iran, in Israel, in UAE, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in Kuwait. And along with that, little later in the day, the statement started to come in. There were more discrepancies arising regarding the 10-point plan, which was essentially the basis of this ceasefire. The US has said that we find it workable, and this is a workable situation to negotiate on. And soon after that, we heard of the worst attack that Lebanon has faced in these last 6 weeks, killing over 250 people in a single day. There were too many cracks emerging. And now let me quickly go over this statement, as you mentioned as well, from Donald Trump. He mentions that no nuclear weapons and the Strait of Hormuz will be open and will be safe. Now, if you just look at these 2 points, this is what Trump is saying, that, and this is what he's hinging his own threat on, that if this happens, then all US ships, aircraft and military personnel will remain in place and around Iran. So this gives you a sense that that US armada is very much in place around Iran, and it's going to be at least for the end of these 2 weeks unless hostilities arise again. That's one takeaway from this statement. And what he also says is that if for any reason it is not, that means if for any reason the nuclear weapons and Strait of Hormuz are not abided to by Iran as per what US wants, then the shooting will start. But he says that is highly unlikely. So there is a certain ray of hope that Donald Trump still has, that there is a chance for diplomacy to survive even now and pave a path out of this escalation threat and escalation trap that all sides seem to be stuck in at this point. Let me quickly go over a few more statements that had come in before this, which has led to this point. Little later yesterday, after the ceasefire had been announced, and as I had mentioned, there were attacks even after the ceasefire which were continuing. We were speaking with military experts. You see, ceasefires take some time for them to reflect on the battlefield, on actual ground. But he said, and this is what a war veteran was sharing with us, that if the attacks continue even 5 to 6 hours later, that means there is a cause of concern. And we heard of attacks across the Gulf continuing well into the night as well. I'll quickly go over the statement. Ghalibaf, who's the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, because these were the two faces who were supposed to sit and have those negotiations scheduled for later this week in Pakistan. Very quickly, Baghir Ghalibaf, he mentioned that denial of Iran's right to enrichment is clearly a denial of the 10-point plan, and Lebanon was always part of the ceasefire and always part of the decisions which led to the ceasefire. J.D. Vance on his head had already said that it's dumb to think that Iran would hinge the ceasefire and would put it in jeopardy for the sake of Lebanon, which was not part of the deal. Now, these are the two people who are supposed to arrive at a conclusion, and they're already at loggerheads in their statements. Will they meet in Pakistan? That really remains to be seen, because this threat from Trump says we can see a resurgence in hostilities very soon. Back to you, Kanishka.
That's right, Trivin. It remains to be seen whether or not Iranian and US delegates will meet on Friday. But yes, that's the latest development coming in, that US President Donald Trump has yet again renewed his threats to Iran. That is just a day after announcing a ceasefire.